Hello students, we are going to discuss uh, the revision of the sciatic nerve, one of the thickest nerve of the body. It is expected 10 marks question from anatomy paper second, question number 4. One of the nerve, either obturator or sciatic nerve, is asked in anatomy paper second as a nerve. So see the diagram which I have sent you in this video. The sciatic nerve is the thickest nerve of the body. First of all, the plan of study is the origin, the root value, and course of the sciatic nerve. This nerve forms in the pelvis, then it comes into the gluteal region. It is the thickest nerve of the body, and it is the nerve of the posterior compartment of the thigh. In the popliteal fossa, it divides into lateral, common peroneal, smaller branch, and medial tibial nerve in the upper part of the popliteal fossa. So first of all, the formation, it is the thickest branch of the sacral fluxus. It forms in the pelvis, in front of the piriformis, in the pelvis. It forms from the roots of the L2, L3, L4, L4, L5, S1, S2, S3. I again revise, the root value of the sciatic nerve is L4, L5, S1, S2, S3. And the root value of the tibial nerve is a ventral division of the anterior primary rami of L4, L5, S1, S2, S3. That is the root value of the tibial part of the sciatic nerve. And root value of the common peroneal nerve is L4, L5, S1 and S2. This is the difference between the root values of the tibial nerve and common peroneal nerve. Now formation. Sciatic nerve is formed in the pelvis by L4, L5, S3, S1, S2, S3. It forms in the pelvis. In the pelvis, it is anterior to the piriformis muscle and a fascia covering to it in the pelvis. Then it comes into the gluteal region via the inferior sciatic notch or the lesser sciatic notch into the pelvis, and in the pelvis, from the pelvis it enters into the gluteal region under cover of the gluteus maximus. So see anatomical position. See gluteus maximum, although you are viewing from the posterior aspect, gluteus maximus is posteriorly. So in the relation of this, first of all, relations in the study, the root value, origin, then gluteal nerve, sciatic nerve in the gluteal region, its relations, then sciatic nerve in the pelvis, in the gluteal region, and in the thigh. In the thigh, it remains behind the bicep femoris tendon of that belly of the bicep femoris. Then in the popliteal fossa, it divides into smaller common peroneal and larger tibial part. So relations of the sciatic nerve in the gluteal region. Sciatic nerve enters the gluteal region through the greater sciatic notch, not lesser sciatic notch, below the piriformis. It runs downward with slight lateral convexity passing between the ischial tuberosity and greater trochanter. it has following relations in the gluteal region. Superficial, that means to the posterior. See, you are observing sciatic nerve from the posterior. So obviously gluteus maximus is to the posterior side. Gluteus posteriorly, gluteus maximus. Deep or anterior nerve lies on the adductor magnus. Anteriorly there is a adductor magnus. Medially semimembranosus and semitendinosus. See the diagram. See the diagram. Root value, and the second diagram, that is the relation of a sciatic nerve in the gluteal region, and to the lateral there is a bicep femoris. It comes under cover of the bicep femoris muscle. Then the sciatic nerve is accompanied by a small companion artery, which is a branch of the inferior gluteal artery. The artery runs along with the sciatic nerve for some distance before sinking it into the substance. This is the relations of the sciatic nerve in the thigh. Now, the sciatic nerve, relations of the sciatic nerve in the gluteal region, it comes into the thigh and divides into common peroneal nerve and the tibial nerve. It gives off some branches. The articular branches, first of all articular branch to the hip joint. Hip joint also is supplied by the femoral nerve. Then muscular branches. The tibial part supplies the semitendinosus, semimembranosus and the long head of the bicep femoris. And common peroneal part supplies muscular branches to the short head of the bicep femoris. Short head gets originated from the lateral lip of the linea aspera. These are the muscular branches. So, a 2 mark question: what is the root value of the sciatic nerve? What is the root value of the tibial nerve? What is the root value of the peroneal nerve? Common peroneal nerve. Then name the branches derived from the sciatic nerve. First of all articular branches and then muscular branches. Then it is very easy to know all the hamstrings. All the hamstrings are supplied by sciatic nerve. In addition to these muscular branches, it also supplies to the medial head of the adductor magnus. That's why the adductor magnus is also called as one of the hamstrings. So keep in mind, name the muscle supplied by sciatic nerve. It consists of semimembranosus, semitendinosus, medial head of the bicep femoris, long head of the bicep femoris, short head of the bicep femoris, and medial head of the adductor magnus. So adductor magnus is also one of the hamstring. It is said as it is one of the hamstring. In addition to these three, what are the name of the hamstring muscles? Semimembranosus, semitendinosus, and bicep femoris. Both the heads of the bicep femoris are the hamstring muscles. Now, in the plan of study, the course, origin, root value, and course. The course of the sciatic nerve in the pelvis, course of the sciatic nerve in the gluteal region, and course of the sciatic nerve in the thigh. See, the course of the sciatic nerve, in the thigh, the sciatic nerve enters the back of the thigh in the lower border of the gluteus maximus. It runs vertically downward up to the superior angle of the popliteal fossa at the junction of the upper 2/3 and lower 1/3 of the thigh, where it terminates, dividing into tibial and common peroneal nerve. It has the following relations in the thigh. Superficial, sciatic nerve crossed by long head of the bicep femoris. Deep relation, nerve lies on the adductor magnus. That means anteriorly adductor magnus in the thigh and posteriorly bicep femoris. The long head of the bicep femoris, and medially there is a semimembranosus and semitendinosus. Laterally bicep femoris. and the sciatic nerve is now accompanied by the companion artery. Just we have seen a branch of the inferior gluteal artery. It runs along with that artery. Now, in the plan of study, you have to draw. Give the introduction, the root value, origin, course of the sciatic nerve in the pelvis, in the gluteal region, and in the thigh. Now, and you have to draw the diagram of the root value. The root value, you have to give a separate shading to the tibial nerve and to the common peroneal nerve. I again revise, the root value of the sciatic nerve is L4, L5, S1, S2, S3. Root value of the tibial nerve is S4, L4, L5, S1, S2, S3. And root value of the common peroneal nerve is L4, L5, S1, S2. There is no S3 in the common peroneal nerve. So, now the practical part. What is what in your feature? What are the important things? See, there are a number of sciatica patients. Sciatica is an inflammation of the sciatic nerve. Whatever may be the etiology, generally it gets compressed in the pelvis due to that source axis or whatever cause may be. It gets compressed. Many times it gets compressed due to the degeneration of the articular disc in between the vertebrae. PCD, the articular disc. It gets degeneration, diminished, and it compresses the root values, and that leads to the pain in the gluteal region in the thigh, and patient is unable to. Hamstring muscles problem is there, incorporation of the hamstring muscle, and that clinical condition is called as a sciatica. Okay. Now, how this I see the diagram what I have given you, the testing of the hamstrings. Testing the patient, lie down the patient in the prone position and ask the patient to lift his leg, and you resist it. Physician has to resist it. And if there is power in the hamstring muscle, if patient is unable to lift his leg by bending in the knee, that means he has a hamstring problem. Testing of the hamstring, which given in the diagram along with this question. Now the testing of the hamstring muscles can be tested by requesting the patient flex the knee against the resistance in prone position. Sciatic nerve lies in quadratus femoris, lies on quadratus femoris and adductor magnus. Between the borders of these two muscles, the nerve lies for a short distance on the femur. When a person sits on the edge of a hard table chair, the nerve gets compressed between the edge of the table and femur. It results in the numbness of the lower limb, but the sensation comes back when the foot hit on the ground a few times and is called as a sleeping foot. बहुत बार खूप वेळा आपण एखाद्या दगडावर किंवा हार्ड ऑब्जेक्टवर बसलेलो असतो, हार्ड ऑब्जेक्टवर, आणि सगळं वजन आपलं त्या ग्लुटियल रिजनवर पडतं. अशा वेळेला टेम्पररी नमनेस येतो, पायामध्ये मुंग्या येतात, पाय बधीर होतो, फुट. सो and afterwards, if you stand up and release the pressure on the gluteal region, उभे राहिले तुम्ही तर एक 2-3 सेकंदामध्ये 2-3 मिनिटांमध्ये त्या पायाच्या मुंग्या जातात. That numbness, and that is called as a sleeping foot. पाय बधीर होऊन जातो. That is called as a sleeping foot. Then shooting pain along with the cutaneous distribution of a sciatic nerve and its terminal branches, chiefly the common peroneal, is known as sciatica. Shooting pain, गोळी मारल्यासारखं ग्लुटियल रिजन मधून आणि खाली थाय मध्ये पेन होतात. सायटिकाचे पेन कसे असतात? देयर इज अ नंबनेस, लॉस ऑफ सेन्सेशन ड्यू टू कॉमन पेरोनियल नर्व, and that is called as the sciatica. This sciatica, the pain usually begins in the gluteal region and radiates along with the back of the thigh and lateral side of the leg to the dorsum of the foot. This is usually due to the compression of one or more nerve roots forming the sciatic nerve. Now, the cause may be disc prolapse or neuritis. Just I have told you, sciatica होण्याचं सगळ्यात मुख्य कारण स्लिप डिस्क. आता स्लिप डिस्क का होते? Why slip disc is there? There is a degeneration in the cartilage, in between articular disc cartilage in between two vertebrae, especially the lumbar vertebrae, and lumbar vertebrae gets a contact. There is no gap in between two vertebrae that is fulfilled by that cartilage, and the roots of the sciatic nerve get compressed, and that leads to the sciatica. And another is the neuritis. Neuritis means inflammation of the nerve. The etiology may be different. There may be some growth in the pelvis that compress the root, or that may compress to the sciatic nerve directly. So neuritis as well as the prolapsed disc get prolapsed side, not on each other, and there is the degeneration of the articular disc in between two vertebrae, which allows to pass the roots of the spinal nerve, and they get compressed, and that leads to the sciatica. Now, the semimembranosus bursa may get inflamed. The condition is called as semimembranosus bursitis. The semimembranosus bursitis, especially back to the knee, there may be inflammation of the bursa, and that is called as the semimembranosus bursitis. Okay. Now, the sciatic nerve may be injured by penetrating एखादी टोकदार वस्तू, upper part of the popliteal. If it is a sharp, a pointed object, if it enters in the upper part of the popliteal fossa, it may injure to the sciatic nerve or to in the thigh, and that leads to the injury to the result of this loss of movement is below the knee joint, the foot drop, sensory loss of the back of the thigh and the whole of the leg, the foot except the area innervated by the saphenous nerve. Motor loss includes loss of hamstrings muscles, loss of dorsiflex and plantar flexor, inverters and everters of the sole may get flexion, dorsiflexion, plantar flexion, and inversion and eversion of the foot get lost, and even the muscles of the leg may get paralyzed. Whole functioning of the leg due to the injury to the sciatic nerve may lead to the loss of functioning of the structure supplied by the sciatic nerve. Main important clinical anatomy: sciatica, testing of the hamstrings, then shooting pain, and स्लिपिंग फूट. आपल्याला नेहमी होतं स्लिपिंग फूट, खाली कडक जागेवर बसलं की फूटला मुंग्या येतात आणि 2-3 मिनिटांनी मुंग्या जातात. These are the 3 important clinical. But if the sciatic nerve is injured by in a pointed penetrating wound in the popliteal fossa, and that injures the sciatic nerve, that also leads to the paralysis of the muscles of the leg. Okay, that is all about sciatic nerve with the origin, root value, course of the sciatic nerve in the pelvis, in the thigh, in the gluteal region in the thigh, and 3 to 4 diagrams and the clinical anatomy 4 to 5 points. 2 marks question may be asked from this topic. Hello students, the next point is the muscles of the back of the leg. The muscles of the back of the leg, there are 4 muscles in the superficial compartment of the back of the leg, and three deep muscles in the back of the leg. The superficial muscles of the back of the leg consist of two heads of the gastrocnemius, which origin from the lateral and medial condyles of the femur, and soleus, the muscle soleus, the tibial head and the fibular head, the second heart called as the soleus, and from the lateral condyle of the femur, a small rudimentary muscle which is not at all of use in human being, that is plantaris, a thread-like muscle, plantaris, which is rudimentary. These four muscles are the muscles of the superficial muscles of the back of the leg. All of them comes together to form a single tendon that is called as a tendocalcaneus, which is the thickest tendon of the body or the strongest tendon of the body. The tendocalcaneus, which is inserted on the posterior surface of the largest tarsal bone, calcaneus. Okay, these are the superficial muscles. All the superficial muscles, they are inserted in the tendocalcaneus, two heads of the gastrocnemius, the soleus and the plantaris. Then these muscles, all of these muscles of the back of the leg is supplied by tibial nerve. The tibial nerve, the nerve supply is tibial nerve S1, S2, S1, S2 root value. Then the deep muscles of the back of the leg. There are three deep muscles of the back of the leg. They are flexor digitorum longus, flexor hallucis longus, and that another is the tibialis posterior. Again revise: flexor digitorum longus, flexor hallucis longus, and flexor tibialis posterior. So these deep muscles of the back of the leg is supplied by tibial nerve. Okay, now the flexor hallucis longus and flexor digitorum longus, they are supplied by tibial nerve. We have already seen the posterior compartment muscles. They get originated from the tibialis posterior, gets originated from the posterior surface of the shaft of the tibia. Then the flexor hallucis longus, it gets originated from the shaft of the tibia. Then the flexor digitorum superficialis, it gets originated from the lateral aspect of the tibia. All the three muscles, they passes under cover of the flexor retinaculum on a medial aspect of the ankle joint, that is flexor retinaculum. Tibialis posterior, flexor hallucis longus, and flexor digitorum longus. The diagram which I have sent you, see the diagram cautiously. What are the deep muscles of the back of the leg? Tibialis posterior, flexor hallucis longus, and flexor digitorum longus. All the flexors of the back of the leg, superficial and deep, they are supplied by the tibial nerve, the calf muscles. Collectively, superficial muscles are called as the calf muscles because due to the translucency of the soleus muscle, it contracts and relax, and it is also called as the second heart, which helps in the venous drainage of the lower limb. And these are the three deep muscles of the back of the leg: tibialis posterior, flexor hallucis longus, and the flexor digitorum longus. They are supplied by tibial nerve. The clinical anatomy of this superficial and deep, the testing of the tendocalcaneus. Tendocalcaneus may be tested by the hammer, and there is a septum in between the superficial and deep muscles of the back of the leg. So testing, there may be testing of the flexors of the foot may be tested by asking the patient to lift his leg, that is given in the diagram sent to you, in the muscles of the back of the leg. So deep muscles are tested by palpating the calf while the foot is being plantar flexed. The tendoarchitis, the clinical anatomy of the deep muscles of the back of the leg is tendoarchitis. Tendoarchitis, that is the inflammation of the posterior tibial nerve. Ankle jerk, the foot gets plantar flexed and tapping of the tendocalcaneus. Then the thrombosis obliterans or occlusive disease of the lower limb artery sympathetic fibers to the arteries are removed so as far as to innervate the arteries. Lumbar 2 and 3 ganglia innervating sympathetic trunk is removed, as this supplies the arteries of the lower limb. Then the dislocation or subluxation of an ankle is common during plantar flexion. Lower end of the leg bones and medial malleolus, tibia, thin fibula and lateral malleolus form the tibiofibular mortis. This is wider anteriorly and narrow posteriorly. The trochlear surface is forming the trochlear surface forming the ankle joint is also wider anteriorly and narrow posteriorly. During dorsiflexion, wider trochlear surface fits into the narrow posterior part of the mortis. The joint is stable and close packed. During plantar flexion, the narrow posterior trochlear surface lies loosely in wider anterior part of the mortis. The joint is unstable and can easily get subluxed and dislocated. This occurs while walking in high heels. So, आपण उंच टाचाचे सॅन्डल घातले किंवा हाय हिल्स वाले कुठले फुटवेअर घातले, there is a chance of a dislocation or a gliding of a lower end of the tibia from the talus. That is the reason behind it is. So this is about the clinical anatomy. Then the clinical anatomy of the compression of the deep posterior tibial nerve in the flexors, deep flexors of the foot, deep flexors of the leg, that is tibialis posterior, flexor digitorum longus and flexor hallucis longus. On the medial aspect of the ankle, there is a band-like retinaculum called as a flexor retinaculum. Under cover of this flexor retinaculum, see in the diagram, the flexor hallucis longus, flexor digitorum longus and tibialis posterior tendons passes, and in between them the posterior tibial nerve, deep the posterior tibial nerve and the posterior tibial artery passes. Sometimes due to the inflammation of these tendons, the nerve get compressed, and that clinical condition is called as a tarsal tunnel syndrome. Okay, this is all about the superficial muscle. Name the superficial. 2 marks question. Name the superficial muscles of the back of the leg. 2 heads of the gastrocnemius, medial head and lateral head of the gastrocnemius, soleus and plantaris. These are the superficial muscles of the back of the leg. They are supplied by tibial nerve. Then what are the deep muscles of the back of the leg? That is flexor hallucis longus, flexor digitorum longus and tibialis posterior. These are the deep muscles of the back of the leg. The deep muscles of the back of the leg is supplied by tibial nerve. What is tarsal tunnel syndrome? Compression of the posterior tibial nerve in between the tendons of the deep tendons of the back of the leg is called as a tarsal tunnel syndrome under cover of the flexor retinaculum. So the structures under cover of the flexor retinaculum is a deep flexors of the back of the leg, posterior tibial artery and posterior tibial nerve. Posterior tibial nerve. These are the structures passing under cover of the flexor retinaculum. Flexor retinaculum of the foot. The next is the extensor retinaculum in front of the ankle joint. Extensor retinaculum in front of the ankle joint. It consists of there are two extensor retinaculum in front of the ankle joint. It is superior extensor retinaculum and inferior extensor retinaculum. Superior extensor retinaculum is medially attached to the fibula attachment. See, medially attached to the lower part of the anterior border of the tibia and laterally the lower part of the anterior border of the fibula, the superior extensor retinaculum. Then Y-shaped inferior extensor retinaculum, it is attached. The stem of the Y is laterally and upper and the lower bands medially. The inferior extensor retinaculum attachment. Then under cover of that extensor retinaculum, tendons of the four muscles passes and one of the important artery, that is dorsalis pedis artery passes and deep peroneal nerve. What structures passes deep to the extensor retinaculum? Two, superior and inferior. Four tendons, tibialis anterior, then that extensor hallucis longus, extensor digitorum longus and peroneal tertius. Tendons of these four muscles passes under cover of the extensor retinaculum, deep peroneal nerve and dorsalis pedis artery. These are the structures that passes under cover of the extensor retinaculum of the ankle joint. Then there is also peroneal retinaculum lateral to the ankle joint, lateral to the behind and below to the ankle joint, lateral malleolus, and that is called as a peroneal retinaculum. Superiorly, it is attached to the lateral malleolus, anteriorly and superiorly, and below it is attached to the lateral surface of the calcaneus. And under cover of this peroneal retinaculum, tendon of the two muscles passes. One is the peroneal longus and peroneal brevis. Peroneal longus and peroneal brevis, which is more nearer to the lateral malleolus, is a peroneal longus, and behind that there is a peroneal brevis. These two muscles are originated from the shaft of the fibula and is inserted in the tarsal bone. Is inserted in the bones of the tarsus or bones of the foot. Okay, these are the three retinaculum. Flexor retinaculum produces tarsal tunnel syndrome, in which there is a sole, there is pain in the sole during walking. Patient, the flexion, dorsiflexion is difficult, and patient get a pain in the sole of the foot. That is tarsal tunnel syndrome. Then the extension, there may be injury to the deep peroneal nerve. There may be the peroneal muscles tendons may get directly injured by a penetrating wound. This is all about the retinaculum around the ankle joint. We already studied the ankle joint. Name the two moments of the ankle joint. There are only two moments of the ankle joint. Although it is a condyloid variety, the dorsiflexion of the foot. Dorsiflexion of the foot, in which there is a foot is raised above and extensor muscles from the anterior compartment of the leg is used. They are tibialis anterior, extensor hallucis longus, extensor digitorum longus, and peroneal tertius. All of these are supplied by deep peroneal nerve. Deep peroneal nerve. Now, the injury to the deep peroneal nerve may lead to the loss of flexion of the foot, dorsiflexion of the foot. Then plantar flexion of the foot is under control of the three deep muscles and superficial muscles of the tendocalcaneus. They are two heads of the gastrocnemius, soleus, plantaris, and deep muscles are the flexor hallucis longus, flexor digitorum longus, and tibialis posterior. If injury to the tibial nerve below the knee leads to the paralysis of the flexors of the back of the leg, flexors of the back of the leg, they get paralyzed and patient is unable to do a plantar flexion. Even the walking gets difficult. The simple movement gets lost of the ankle joint. Then, in addition to this, see, there are we have already discussed there is a joint in between the talus and calcaneus. It leads. There are two moments of this joint. The inversion, making the face, talus, joint in between the talus and calcaneus, the making the face of your sole medially. The sole faces medially, and when sole faces laterally, that is called as eversion. So, inversion is a moment in which medial border of the foot is elevated so that sole faces medially. This is the medial border. Suppose this is a sole. This medial border is elevated. That is inversion. And when the lateral border is elevated, that is eversion. Okay? So this movement takes place in the talocalcaneus joint. Eversion is a movement in which the lateral border of the foot is elevated so that the sole faces laterally. These movements can be performed voluntarily only when the foot is off the ground. When the foot is on the ground, these movements help to adjust the foot to the uneven ground. In inversion and eversion, entire part of the foot below the talus moves together and the movement takes place mainly at the subtalar or talocalcano-navicular joint. All the three bones, talus, calcaneus and navicular, these bones form a joint is called as a subtalar joint. In that, eversion and inversion of the foot. Name the movements of the subtalar joint, that is eversion, inversion and eversion. Again revise, inversion and eversion, that takes place in the subtalar joint. It is the joint in between the talus, calcaneus and navicular bone. Subtalar joint and talocalcaneus-navicular joint. These are the joints that participate in the movement of the subtalar joint is a joint in between the talus and calcaneus, and talocalcano-navicular joint. This is second joint in between the three bones. So these two joints makes the inversion and eversion. Okay. 2 marks question from arches of foot, the most neglected part, but interesting part in the walking, jumping, dancing, and all the activities of the foot. There are some important in the arches of the foot. That the first one, what is exaggeration of the longitudinal arches of the foot is known as pes cavus. Then the talipus equinus, talipus calcaneus, talipus valgus, and commonest deformity is a talipus equinovarus, that is club foot. One by one, the foot has the arches. We have already seen the arches of the foot. The medial longitudinal arch, lateral longitudinal arch, then anterior transverse arch and posterior transverse arch. Such a 4 arches are there. The arches, medial, lateral, medial and lateral. Anterior transverse arch in one foot, and posterior transverse arch is half in one foot and half in another foot. As all of you know better, you must have studied the arch ends. Arch is like a bow, Indradhanushya, bow, and this is a sling, dori, वो जो rope रहता है ना, anterior end, posterior end, and highest point is the tip of that bow. If you compress, the sling distance of the sling gets increased. That is the idea behind the arches made by nature. So clinical anatomy of this arches of foot. Absence of the collapse of the arches leads to the flat foot. Some people has they have congenital absence of the arches. The number of people you must have seen in your life. So that is called as a pes planus. उनमें arches ही develop नहीं होते. Then the arches help in the loss of spring-like movement नहीं होते उनमें. Loss of shock, त्यांना खालून दणका सहन नहीं होत. Loss of concavity get lost. They have flat foot, and exaggeration of the longitudinal arches of the foot is known as pes cavus. This is usually a result of the contracture plantar flexion and transverse tarsal joint. That is called as claw foot. The common causes of the pes cavus and claw foot is spina bifida. That vertebral column itself is bended backward, convexity. It is not like English letter S shaped. There is a deformity in the development of the vertebral column. It's called as a spina bifida. Okay.